Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted that you're with us today. We broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains, and there's a link to your instructors on the website, USAPREPARES.com. Kyle's engineering the broadcast at Genesis Communications Network. I'm Vincent Finelli, and live with us today from Australia is Guineith Isaacs. Welcome, Guineith.
Hello, Vincent. How are you this morning?
Guineith, it's great to hear your voice. Yeah, it's great to hear your voice.
So good to hear your voice.
I wanted to share a story with you. It's absolutely horrible. During the weekend, I was on the phone many times for hours with parties concerned about smart meters in a small city called Poplar Bluff, Missouri. And it looked like there was going to be some discussion at the city council meeting. They had the city utilities general manager there. His name is Bill Bach. And Bill Bach has a degree in electrical engineering, a bachelor's degree, which would be the minimum degree that I would consider pertinent for this discussion. And they were going to put smart meters in. And the village was concerned, some of the village was concerned about putting these smart meters in the village of, or the city of, or the corporation of Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Now, we have a radio station, KLID, that is an affiliate of ours, and we broadcast in the very best time slot that they have, which is drive time in the afternoon. They think that much of us. So we rang the alarm and we talked about this meeting that was going to transpire last night at 7 o'clock. We made multiple announcements, gave out the mayor of the number of the telephone number of the mayor. That would be his cell phone. We gave out that number. And we talked about the dangers of smart meters and electromagnetic radiation and microwave radiation. We posed some questions for the village to ask at this meeting. 20 people or so showed up, and almost all of them had their own agenda other than the smart meter discussion. And within 15 minutes allotted to the smart meter discussion, the corporation of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, decided that they are going to go with smart meters because, well, you know, everyone has cell phones, and what's the difference? What's just a little speck more of electromagnetic microwave radiation? What's that going to do? And it was presented, as I understand, that it's safe. Absolutely safe. Which is total nonsense.
You know, something, if you could see the expression on my face now, it would be really, really grumpy. It really would.
Well,
and you know,
I'm outraged. I'm outraged.
There was a lady who wrote a book back in the 1960s, and her name was Rachel Carson. She wrote a book called Silent Spring, which rang the alarm bells on the emerging, at that time, pesticide situation. Okay, I studied environmental science at the University of Melbourne, and that book was required reading. And I think I remember hearing somebody who ought to know say that the rise of smart meters and cell phone radiation. I do use a cell phone, I must confess. Okay, but we live off the grid, and we live right out in the forest, about, between 18 and 20 kilometres out of town. The cell phone reception here is absolutely lousy, okay? So we have a low radiation level here, but we are facing an electronic silent spring, and there is no question about it. Absolutely no question about it. And I am totally disgusted with the response from the people of, that particular little hamlet. And it's almost like they have, haven't they done the research? Don't they know what this is? That even a low level of microwave radiation can do huge amounts of cell damage?
Well, they've been bamboozled. They've been bamboozled by Bill Buck, the general manager of City Utilities, who, in my opinion, should be fired immediately. If I had the authority...
Wish against that community. You're going to see the cancer
no
rate
question.
Going sky high. They
no
have
question.
Our national broadcaster here, which is the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, a number of years ago, they had a bit of an emergency because probably about 20 or 30 of their female staff, within a period of 18 months or 2 years, ended up getting breast cancer in one building. And they traced the problem, but they never would tell the public what the problem was. But I can almost guarantee you what the problem was. I haven't heard this, I've just worked it out on my own. And that was the microwave transmission tower that sat atop that building. I can almost guarantee
Okay, well, there are other stories at universities of people getting cancer from microwave dishes, microwave transmitters, microwave antennas that universities place on their buildings to communicate from building to building, or campus places on the campus from one to another. I know about these things. I have installed them.
Mm-hmm.
I have installed these devices, and I'm as a technician, as the engineer. I engineered.
Yep.
I'll tell you what happened. There is a small hamlet in Virginia that I was consulting for, and we wanted to connect the elementary school to the middle school to the high school to the school board office, and it was all within about a mile. And the telephone company said, "Oh yeah, we put fiber optics in for you. We're all good to go." And of course, I reported to the superintendent of schools, and I worked with all the principals, and I worked with all the teachers, and so I sat in the meetings on pricing and costing, and $25,000 a year to rent the bandwidth on this fiber optic cable. And I said, heck, for $5,000, we can put in a very, very, very low power microwave antenna, and we can direct it so it is not aimed at the students from one building to another. A very small angle of transmission, very, very low power. And we set it on the lowest power that it would operate on. I'm talking less than 5 watts. About the power of a cell phone. Okay? And it worked. And it worked just great. Well, I know that you can use more power than that. And I know that the cell towers use way more power than that. So here's what happened. This little hamlet of Poplar Bluff in Missouri has a population of 17,287 as of 2013. They have 94 473 electric meters. I know. I called city utilities, and I called their to find out exactly how many customers they have. And they are going to replace all these meters with these smart meters. 9,473. How much is it going to cost? $1.8 million. Now, here's the question. If there is a 50% chance that people are going to become ill, sick, get cancer, other diseases, have increased symptoms of Alzheimer's.
Sick people.
Okay. So, yeah. So if there's only a 50% chance, would anybody in his right mind do this? Okay. Let's say there's only a 25% chance that we're right. Would anybody in his right mind do this? Let's say there's only a 1% chance that Guineith, you and I are right, and everyone else is right who talks about the dangers of microwave radiation. If we're right, then there's only a 1% chance that we're right. Would anybody in his right mind roll out these smart meters?
People in a small community.
The point is, class, Bill Bach, City Utilities General Manager, should be run out of his office this morning. Here's for obfuscating, for misrepresenting, and for saying it's safe. I'm hearing an echo. Here's the thought of the day. Who in his right mind would put his cat in a microwave oven for 10 seconds? Nobody.
No.
In class, don't do that. Don't do that, because it can kill your cat.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're looking at 1,000 watts of microwave for 10 seconds and you wouldn't do that to your cat, why would you allow 10,000 roughly microwave transmitters to be placed around your city that are communicating all day, all night, from now on until they break or are removed, which is fat chance of that? Why would anybody do that? There has to be an incentive. And I am suggesting, I don't know this is a fact, but I'm suggesting that there are people on the city council who have received some kind of incentive for passing this. Some kind of incentive. Whether it be, a boat ride, a vacation, a cancellation of a loan, free use of a car for a year, furniture, clothing, or just a promotion or a fat check. Okay? We'll talk about what the federal government is doing to incentivize these smart meters when we come back. Guineith Isaacs, live in Australia. Class, the last time I did this, I came out against fluoride in the city water system. And as a result of giving out the city manager's phone number day after day, I was removed from the radio. Fluoride is still in the water years later. And this may happen again because I gave out the mayor's cell phone number yesterday. The mayor's number is 573-429-4030. 573-429-4030. Mayor DeGarris of the Corporation of Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Also known as the City of Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Well, we failed. We absolutely failed. We announced it worldwide. We're broadcast on KLID in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. The best programming lineup of any radio station in that village. No question. I'm not talking about just USA Prepares. I'm talking about all the other programming that's on KLID. But together we all failed. We failed to stop the smart meters. We failed to even have more discussion about the smart meters. The incentives for the installation of these smart meters must have been so great, that news was not far and wide about this meeting. And so great that Bill Bach, the city utilities general manager, didn't further investigate. Didn't even say, you know what? Even if there's 1/1000th of a chance that this could be even slightly dangerous, let's err on the side of caution. Let's delay this. I'll tell you what. Let's talk about it for the next 3 weeks and give us all some time to figure out if what these people on USA Prepares are saying is correct. Dr. Norman Shealy, medical doctor. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, PhD, physicist. Bert Bertonis, patent holder and radio frequency engineer. We're all saying that this is dangerous stuff. We shouldn't be playing with this. But yet, where were the people? Where were the people? I remember going to Jefferson City, Missouri. A couple van loads of us. We had it with our state government. We went there. In the van were pitchforks. We went to the capital of Missouri with pitchforks. Where's the outrage? Is it just me and Guineith? Come on. You know, at this rate, there are people like us who are just going to say, you know what? You guys are on your own. Why should we even increase our blood pressure to try to help people who don't want to help themselves? I'm furious. I've seen this time and time and time again. It's not, jeez. When I was in Virginia, they wanted to put a prison in our little hamlet of 500 people. 500 people. The centerpiece of this little town was going to be a prison, a private, for-profit prison. In the beginning, everybody was with me. We were all in it together. By the end, there was just me. Then they wanted to put a dump in our county. A dump. That's a place where you put everything that you don't want. Batteries, toxic waste, biological waste, hospital waste, waste from 5 states was going to be coming in on truck and rail. And they were going to put it on top of an aquifer next to an area that was mostly inhabited by Black Americans. I got together with the NAACP, and together we fought. And by the time we're all done, it was just me. Wake up. I'll be right back. Guineith, this reminds me of a poster I used to have in my office. And it showed a group of people, and it said, never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. And so I typed that in on the internet, and I found some other posters that I think we should share. One of them says, think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that. Isn't that amazing? And then there's one that has a picture of Congress. It says, never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups.
Yep.
Mark Twain said, never argue with stupid... One second.
Yeah.
Mark Twain said, never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience. I am so frustrated, Guineith. I just don't know what to do.
You know something? All that you can do is keep doing what you're doing. Because do you know something? One day, this is what's going to happen. All the good people are going to go somewhere else. okay? And all the people who have actually been fighting these sorts of battles, all these people who flat out refused access to their property for the smart meter installation man, okay? All the people who fought the police and the parking meter guy and this guy and that guy and the child protection and, you know, the dog ranger and all the rest of it, all of whom are seeking to infringe on our rights to do what God has given us permission to do on this earth by their stupid set of made-up, man-made rules. One day, we're all going to go away. And it even says that in the Bible, okay? And then they're all going to have to fight these battles on their own. And do you know something? I would give it probably between 3.5 and 7 years before they manage to fully destroy the planet. Because it says in the Bible that if Jesus delayed his coming any more than what he is delaying it, he's not going to have a planet to come back to. That's just the simple truth of it. That stupid people who won't fight against blatantly satanic, in many cases pedophilic, evil people who want to destroy them, their family, their water, their air, their soil. Okay? One day, they are, you know, not going to have us there to stand up for them, and they're going to get exactly what they want, which is a world without us and a world without God. And like I said, I would give the whole planet, unless Jesus comes back, between 3.5 and 7 years. That's not a long time. Now, regarding these council officers, I would say that somebody actually has goods on them, okay? That they are somehow compromised in their personal life with some sort of activity that they really do not want to become public, okay? Because basically whenever you get into this level of really, gosh, what words would you even put on it? You know, just self-harm, you know, that they really do not care for you, that they actually are doing stuff that if they sat for 3 seconds and thought about it, they know is going to destroy their community. There must be somebody above them who actually has goods, shameful behaviour that they can expose on every single one of these councillors, and with that's the stick, and then there's the carrot of the big check, the holiday, the yacht, the whatever at the other end. Because that is how the globalist, satanic, pedogate people operate. They have a stick at one end, which is the compromised activity that they know about, the trips to Bohemian Grove, the, you know, parties with 20 little kids present, the, you know, the even just caught with their pants down with the local madam, locally. You know, it all is a very effective stick. And then they have the carrot, which is the fat check, the yacht, etc. You know, and even just getting left alone. That's how these guys operate. And it's, you know, I've been dealing with these guys on some sort of a level for about the last 17 years. I have not been left alone, and I have fought them every inch of the way. And because I have fought them every inch of the way, I actually have my own farm, okay? I actually have my children with me. I have my dogs, who are my best friends, you know? I'm fighting this thing, which is my own battle at the moment, where I was T-boned by a prime mover last year, and the local police are trying to blame me for criminally damaging the road train, when there is film out there on the internet which clearly shows that the road train driver crossed a double white line, which is dangerous driving on a railway crossing at between 40 and 50 kilometres an hour. That's dangerous driving, okay? That is just, there's just no way that I am guilty of criminally damaging that road. But it's the same thing. They've got goods, and they're trying to use that court case as goods over me to make me fall into line. Guess what? I'm not falling into line, okay? They've got goods on my family members who have done things in the past that they are really, really, truly ashamed of. And yet, in this case, it's the WA police, using these goods against my family member to try and get him to basically betray his own relative that he grew up with, and that I'm sure he would really rather not be in that situation. But this is what they do. They are Satanists. They really are. They're Luciferian, evil people. They have got nothing to do with law. They have got nothing to do with justice. We haven't got a justice system here in Australia. We've got an extortionate cartel. It's run by Serco. Okay? That's SERCO. And on Serco's own website, they admit that they control the Victoria Police. They flat out admit it, They are the ones who issue all the infringement notices, and they control the Department of Justice, and they admit so. And the Victoria Police and the Department of Justice and the local council and the whole lot of them, they all have business registration numbers. In Australia, they're called ABN numbers, Australian Business Numbers, which means that they're registered as a business. And we've got high court precedents here in Australia with people who did fight them, okay? Which says that even if that business is owned by the government, it's still a business, and it can sue and it can be sued. And if people would only get off their rear ends and fight these people, then we would. My family, 800 years ago, was connected to the family of William Wallace. And I'm just remembering in that movie Braveheart, it said, I know it's Mel Gibson, right? But the events that are depicted in that movie basically are accurate in how they happened. And he said, if you would only fight them, I'm not talking about getting out weapons, I'm talking about, just standing up against them. If you would only fight, then you would have what none of us have ever had before, a country of our own, without them ruling over us, dominating us, enslaving us. It's disgusting. I just want to get people and just shake them, and I say, wake up. Wake up. Well, you haven't got a country. You've got a cartel-dominated, hellhole. Really? You would actually probably even be better off if the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club were running the show. Really, you would. They would probably treat you better. And, if anyone's not awake and aware out there, they'd think, oh, what are you talking about? But you know something? At least with the Hells Angels, they don't pretend to be good people. these are people who are bandits and are proud of it. They're not pretending to be anything else. That's what I mean when I say you'd be better off with the Hells Angels looking after you than with most police departments in this country. I actually would love to have a police department that is really, truly a police department that really solves crime and keeps the bad people under control. I would love that. I would think, woohoo, here we go, this is good, you know? But we don't have that. We don't have it here in Australia. I'm sure you don't have it where you are, you know?
No,
but
we'll be right back. We'll be right back after these. I just sent a message to KLID, and I said, I suggest that you consider making this a call-in topic for discussion on KLID. And you may want to hear what I had to say for the first half hour today. They may not want to play that. They play that delayed. They may not want to play that. They may want to do something else instead because I was so angry. But let me share this with you, Guineith. We're talking about the smart meters in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Okay, so the World Health Organization, according to my research on the internet, the World Health Organization classified RF, radio frequency radiation from cell phones, which is the same kind of radiation, microwave radiation that comes from smart meters, as a Class 2B carcinogen.
Carcinogen.
The same classification
I'm aware of that
as
research.
the same as DDT. Now, the question is, who would spray DDT on their home 24/7? Who? And what happens is the city utilities general manager, Bill Bach, says, well, you know, you all have cell phones, but you have a choice with cell phones. I don't have one. I don't want one. Right.
You can put it
and
in airplane
you can turn it
mode.
off. You can put it over there, far away from you.
Yep.
But if you have a bedroom that is next to a utility meter on the outside of your vinyl-sided house, you are going to be blasted with microwave radiation 24 hours a day when you're in your bedroom.
Yep.
Let's say you
Actually,
don't. Let's say you don't have a bedroom. Well, hang on. Let's say you don't have a bedroom.
Cliff High
Okay, go ahead.
did
Go ahead.
actually some rather interesting research on, you know, what to do with smart meters. And I believe if you go to halfpasthuman.com and do a search on that site on smart meters, you'll see Cliff High's research. And I've got a big thumbs up to that. I know that he's a USA Prepares instructor.
Yes.
And I love his research, you know.
And he lives in Missouri.
I'm not going to tell people what to do. I'm going to direct them to Cliff High's site, halfpasthuman.com, okay? And search on that site of smart meters and what to do with them. And he's got some absolutely marvelous ideas. So, but that is for the listening audience that is for the class to go and research for themselves, if they care enough to not give themselves and their family cancer, that is.
Have you heard of anybody being so concerned about the damaging of these smart meters that they put a steel coffee can, one of those large 3-pound coffee cans,
I
over them?
believe Cliff High's research has something to do with something similar to that. You know.
Okay, we were the first.
Yeah.
We were the first ones to do that, and I announced as soon as they threatened me with calling the sheriff on me for not allowing them to put a smart meter on our farm. I thought, man, I really don't want to get involved in a gunfight today with the sheriff and whoever else shows up. So what I did was, in order to protect my smart meter, you know, because someday we may have some young children playing baseball in the backyard. I mean, I don't know. It hasn't happened yet, but you don't know. And And I was concerned about this really expensive-looking meter, so I wanted to protect it from hail and, chips from that fly up from the lawnmower. You never know when you might hit a little stone or something in the backyard with these rotary mowers. Yeah. So what I did was, I put a 3-pound coffee can over the smart meter so that if stones flew or something, it wouldn't get chipped and broken. But the darn thing doesn't work so well when you do that.
Quite interesting, but like I say, for the results of the experiment, the halfpasthuman.com.
Yeah, we were the first to announce that, but I'm glad Cliff High picked up on that.
Yeah.
Guineith, you and I will be right back, and we're going to talk about some things that the police can do that are good, right? We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Guineith Isaacs is with us. She's live in Australia. We've been talking about the takeover of Poplar Bluff by city government because they are allowing smart meters to be deployed. And so the World Health Organization classified the radiation from cell phones, the same as smart meters in many cases, as a Class 2B carcinogen, which is the same as DDT. And, of course, we've asked the question, would you spray your house 24/7 with DDT? Next question is, are we aware that low-level microwave radiation, the kind that we're talking about from these smart meters, causes hypertension, which is high blood pressure, decreased fertility? How many people have you heard of that are going to fertility clinics because they can't conceive? How about fatigue? Anybody tired out there? How about impotence? How about lack of concentration, chest pain, memory loss? How about that? And Guineith said something really interesting. She thinks that there's a possibility that the people who want these smart meters, that would be like the Washington, D.C. types and the manufacturers of them and people who profit from the deployment of these smart meters because they are not free. And in the case of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, they're going to cost $1.8 million. That's their number. So typically their number is always wrong. Okay, usually it's more. But anyway, if you go to watch Blue Bloods on CBS series with Tom Selleck, it's a multi-generational family of law enforcer types. Well, they even show how the law enforcer types, even the main characters, use blackmail. The cops blackmail people in families to testify against other members of their own families, and that's what Guineith was saying.
Yep.
And she also talked.
Actually happening in my family at the moment.
Okay, so the cops are
blackmailing a family member to try and get him to turn against me because he did something in the past that he really wishes that he hadn't done. He was drunk at the time. And basically the whole family knows about the situation, okay? Obviously to protect the victim, I'm not going to go into the details of what happened. But anyone
please don't.
Who's within my F1 circle, with the possible exception of my sister, they all know what happened. Okay, and that they're all deeply ashamed, including this relative. He's also deeply ashamed of his behaviour, and I believe that at the time his behaviour was reported to the police, but that nothing was done, and that basically, this is what they typically do in these sorts of situations. They hold them as blackmail levers to get these people to do what they want them to do in the future. And I just want to say, I know that all of our broadcasts are monitored. I want to say to everybody in the WA police, in the Queensland police, and in the Victoria police that we know what you're doing. Okay? That what you're doing is wrong, that if you don't turn around and start doing the right thing, the sort of things that God would have you to do, and start behaving like a police department instead of an extortion cartel, that God is going to turn circumstances around, okay, to where it's, I would not like to be in your shoes in eternity. You are going to face the eternal judgment seat, okay, of God. And I would not like to be in your shoes on that day. Every day when you wake up, and I wake up, it's by the grace of God. Every breath that we take, you can laugh at God if you want, but you will not be laughing on that inevitable day that comes, whether it's tomorrow or whether it's in 30 or 50 years' time. Every one of us is going to have a final day on this earth, okay? Every one of us. There's nobody alive on this earth who's older than about 120. Even 120 years is the blink of an eye. My gosh, I'm 42. I never thought that these 42 years would go so quickly. I never ever thought that. You know something? We all, sooner or later, have to reap what we have sown. And if you have sown violence, how can you expect to reap peace from violence? Now, I'll tell you how I hate even to use that word law enforcement, okay? Policing. I'll tell you how policing ought to behave, okay? There are videos out there on YouTube and on the internet of police officers demonstrating great bravery and courage in taking out shooters, okay? These are these people who grab a firearm and just randomly walk down the road popping it off. It happens from time to time. And usually it comes out that the person either holds particular religious beliefs or they have, as the terminology goes, they have a screw loose, okay? And often you find that they actually got the firearm from government sources, sometimes from the military, sometimes actually from things like police auctions, which is kind of crazy, but not really if you think about it. The police are there to be a restraint to wickedness. They are not there to be an extortionate cartel, okay? If they stop behaving as a restraint to wickedness and start cooperating with wickedness and start behaving as an extortionate cartel, okay, then what is going to happen is they lose the respect of the ordinary people. And one by one, the members of the population wake up. They stop trusting them. They stop cooperating with them. And, what are they going to do if any situation really develops where the police require the cooperation of the public? Like, for instance, if there's an escaped criminal, what are the ordinary people going to do? If they find that criminal, if they are of the special snowflake variety of human, they're likely to curl up in a ball. If they are not of the special snowflake variety of human, things are likely to go for that criminal a lot worse than if the police had gotten a hold of them. Okay? That's just how it is. Because if any, like for instance, we take the case of an escaped criminal, okay? If he runs through any farm around here, the farmers are aware that there's an escaped criminal on the loose, they're just likely to get their firearm and take pot shots at him. Okay? If he came around here, I would not call the police. If an escaped criminal came here, I probably would not call the police. I've said before, I don't have firearms, but I have other projectile firing devices. And I have other means of defending myself, and I would employ them. And it would go very, very badly for that criminal. Very badly indeed. Okay? And I have every right to defend my life, defend my property. I'm a single woman. I live way out in the country. What am I going to do? Am I going to call a bunch of extortionate, so-and-sos who are basically criminals themselves to come and defend me, or am I going to defend myself? But other farmers around here do have firearms. If there's an escaped criminal on the loose, he's not going to get through that farm if the farmer spots him. Because, the farmers around here are basically permitted to shoot trespassers on sight. And they have been authorised to do that by the Blue Team. Because the issue of livestock rustling is periodically severe. Okay? And what are you going to do if you live 30 k's out of town and you can see somebody loading up a truck with your cattle or your sheep? You're not going to call the police. And the police have been told of how it stands with the farmers here. That's just how it is. But if they behaved as they ought to, with defending regular people who are not criminals, then they would be loved. They really would be. And in a collapse situation, I would be much more willing to cooperate with them if I knew that I could trust them. As it stands, I can't trust them. Not when the sergeant's, threatening to come round to my house in the middle of the night. What's he going to do? Drink coffee and play chess?
That's the music again. Guineith's with us. She's live in Australia. We'll be right back. Guineith Isaacs is with us. Guineith, I was thinking about a little bit about microwaves during the break. ADHD, attention deficit disorder. Well, did we talk about that before there were microwaves in the air? I think there is a link between attention deficit and microwave radiation.
Well,
we're talking about what
they were doing research into that back in the 60s. I think under the 50-year rule, it's been declassified now what they were doing. Basically putting electrical circuits onto the brain, initially of rats and mice, and then they moved up to cattle. And they were able to control the behaviour of the beast, of the animal, whether it was a rat or a mouse or a cow, and make it either docile or, extremely vicious, just by changing the frequencies that they were putting into the animal's brain.
Now, when you talk about putting the
50 years ago, they were doing this research. And do you think they might have advanced since then?
Of course. And when you talk about putting these frequencies in, we're not talking about drilling a hole and pouring something in. We're talking about from a distance. We're talking about exposing these animals at a distance to electromagnetic radiation, specifically microwaves. I know a man, and I've said this before, I know a man who was in Vietnam, a friend of mine, the Vietnam conflict, and he was a single guy and young guy, and he was a radio operator. And before going into town on leave, he would sit on the feed horn of a microwave antenna to scramble his sperm, so that that was his way of preventing. Well, he knew that back in in the 60s, and so here's the thing: cell phones, gentlemen, boys, cell phone near your groin has the effect of reducing your sperm count by 30%. Okay, say it a different way. Cell phones near your groin have the effect of reducing sperm count by 30%. So what are the main reasons for anyone to want to have smart meters? Well, obviously, there are people who make them, and they profit from it. There are people who install them, they'll profit from it. And then, of course, you have the people who benefit financially by bribes and so forth, which we talked about. But there's another reason. See, the federal government, the Department of Energy, is spending about $7.9 billion. That's with a B, in grants. What do they call these? SGIG. The government has a pent for using acronyms for their projects. SGIG, Smart Grid Investment Grants, $7.9 billion. As of yet, they haven't spent it all, but they're in the $5 billion neighborhood in terms of monies that they've stolen from us and have spent on smart grid, what they call investments. And then here's another reason. They collect information about their customers' habits, time of use, instantaneous time of use information that they're collecting, when we use and how much we use. But here is one other, and this may be the main reason that utilities are interested in it. They haven't told us this yet. When we buy electricity right now, we pay for it, and typically most of us pay the same rate, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, or night. However, smart meters will allow something completely new that we haven't thought about, we as customers, and that is time of usage rates. So, for example,
they already
let's say
have
there's
that in Australia, and they've had it for many, many years. You've got peak rate electricity pricing, and then you've got off-peak rate electricity pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, I think it gets... Go ahead.
Yeah, if you have appliances, that use a great deal of electricity that only need to be turned on once a day, like, for instance, hot water heaters, you can they're actually called night storage heaters in this country, where you can set the hot water heater, for instance, dishwasher, yada, to actually run in the middle of the night to take advantage of the low electricity rates.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what we're talking about. We're talking about instantaneous rate changes, so it can change minute to minute. Minute to minute.
So if you're using a lot, you get charged more.
Way more. We'll be right back. Guineith, there's a toll road in Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it stretches toward Washington, D.C. It's called the 495 Express Lanes. And what happens is there's a sign that has a real-time monitor, and it tells you how much it's going to cost if you want to take this this route. And I saw $31 when I was driving past it, within the last couple of years. Well, it's supposed to be between 20 cents a mile, and at peak times when there are lots of drivers or travelers, it can go to $1 a mile. Now, there's a post on the internet that says that it was seen at $64.35 to drive this express lane. Who would ever have thought that you could charge people by the amount of usage? So the more a resource is being used, we'll charge more at that time. Well, that's what we're talking about at the smart meter implementation. That's one of the things that's planned for it, which is time of use pricing. So let's say it's a really hot summer day and you just can't stand it, and you're a senior citizen, and without air conditioning you're going to die. So you just turn it on and you find out your bill is 5 times more than you expected.
Yep. And then you're in debt and you end up losing your house.
Yeah.
You know, as an 80-year-old woman or whatever. That's just it is disgusting, you know. But you know something? I saw this happening. I work as a psychic. I see things many years before they actually happen on this earth, okay? And I saw that this was going to happen, and I began doing research, and I found out that it was being planned already. And at that time, I decided that I was going to live out in the country and I was going to live off the grid. And many of the inverters that operate off-grid systems, you know, you've got to be careful with the inverter that you install, because many of the inverters also have smart meters as well. They actually have SIM cards in them which transmit a microwave signal. Now, I'm very fortunate here because I have a solid-state inverter, okay? It was manufactured around about 1985, and it's got no microchips in it at all. The whole thing is built solid state, and it was built by Siemens. That's, you know, they used to make mobile phones as well. But it's a Siemens Sunshine inverter, and it's 4 kilowatts, which is a pretty powerful inverter. But if you are going to buy a new off-the-shelf solar power system to try and get off the grid and away from the smart meters, if you're not careful with your inverter, you might be disappointed, because many of the inverters these days also have you know, smart meters in them. So just something to point out there to people who are wanting to get off the grid and wanting to, you know, get away from the smart meters via that route, that it seems to be like they're a python, like they're strangling you. They don't want you to be independent at all. You know, why you would even need a smart meter on an off-grid inverter is quite beyond me. You know, why would you even need that? But I have seen them with my own eyes, and I wouldn't have believed it unless I'd seen it with friends' inverters. You know, because once you go off the grid and friends of yours start going off the grid, you start comparing your equipment and your kit.
Sure.
You know how it is, Vincent. That's just what happens. And I've seen them.
Yeah. I have some friends who are students and friends who are instructors, and we have compared notes exactly as you're talking about. And it's really interesting that the instructors and students whom I've chatted with off the air all have this one allergy, and that allergy is we are all allergic to making mistakes. So we do lots of research to prepare so that we don't make mistakes, or we minimize our mistakes, but we do our best, and we find that we come to the same conclusions in our designs and in our implementations. Even in our farm equipment, we come to the same conclusions independently, and then we compare notes, and sometimes we compare before we buy. And that's something that we may end up offering on this broadcast. We may offer solutions that are way, way, way more cost effective than anything that is out there in terms of living off the grid. So that may come in the future. We're prepared for it. We're doing some testing as we speak as to what we like and what we think is the best choice. But this billing at time of use through the smart meters is really insidious. It's really a problem, and that does not include the next generation, which will be connecting everything that we have. If you don't have the internet, no problem. We'll just relay that information over the smart meter grid as to what your appliances are saying about you, what the TV
and of
camera.
Course your washing machine's spying on you too.
Well, I mean, even
theory, that's proven fact.
Yes, and also the televisions with microphones in them, and allegedly it's to report to the advertisers that
you. This was put out in 1948. There was written a book called 1984. It was written by a fellow by the name of Eric Blair, and he wrote under the nom de plume of George Orwell. You know, that's something else that the WA police and the Queensland police have been, and probably the Victoria police will try and do, is try and make it strange that people use a nom de plume. Okay, I use a nom de plume. If anyone wants to take the time to research, they can find out my real name on the internet. Okay, but hey, people have been using nom de plumes as writers and broadcasters for hundreds of years. It's nothing weird. It's nothing strange. It's no conspiracy theory. George Orwell put out in his book 1984, which was published in 1948, that the televisions would be watching you. And that was a long time ago. And by the way, they're flat screens, if you read that book closely. And in that day, there was no such thing as flat-screen TVs, but they're called tally screens. Okay? They're flat-screen TVs. And how, you know, if you think, how could he have seen back in the day that we would have flat-screen TVs that were watching and listening to us unless it was all planned from the get-go? Yep. That's
you know, you're talking about some nom de plumes. I use my real name on the air, but I chose to do that. It was probably a mistake, but there are a lot of people who have nom de plumes. For example, Woody Allen, actor. Okay, his real name is Alan Konigsberg.
I think his career went better by being called Woody Allen.
Yeah. Let's see. There are a bunch of others.
Pink.
Let's see. Excuse me?
Pink.
Okay.
You can't tell me that her mother really truly wrote on her birth certificate that her name would be called Pink. Well, what about Madonna? Mm-hmm. What, did her mother just write Madonna on the birth certificate? Mm-hmm. You know, it's nothing strange that broadcasters, entertainers, and writers and publishers would use nom de plumes. It's just normal in the entertainment industry and in radio and in TV. You know, half the performers out there will not use their real name in their performance.
Yeah, Karen Johnson. We don't know her by that name. We know her by Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
And there's an actress, B. Arthur. Her name is Bernice Frankel. Rock Hudson. Leroy Harold Shearer, Jr.
Yep. Yeah. This is it, you know. And actually, you know, when it started out many years ago, I started out contributing to forums on magical topics because actually I think I started using the name Guineith Isaacs before even my husband died. And I used to research various topics, mostly things that Archie was reading about in the Nexus magazine or in the New Dawn, and I still read Nexus and New Dawn. I think that's where I first came across Richard Allen Miller. by the way. I think he publishes in one of those magazines. I think in Nexus.
He does?
And,
he publishes in Nexus?
What was that, sorry?
He does. He publishes in Nexus.
Yes, that's right. I think I remember. But and I began going on internet forums and doing research. There was no Facebook in those days, okay? But I would contribute to forums, and that's when I first started using the name Guineith. So you can go back over 15 years and type in Guineith on a search engine and get archived forum threads. I'm sure they're out there where I am writing and contributing to mostly magical type topics. Okay.
Well, that thought. So, Guineith, during this broadcast today, we've been talking about microwave radiation, the dangers, and we've been talking about what would motivate people to support this. And what happens is, it's clear to me that just a few people are running roughshod over the rest of us and putting our health at risk needlessly. And that's because they're getting federal monies. They want to collect information about us. They want to find out our habits. They want to bill us at the time of use rates, which will increase our electric bills. And I was told that our electric bill would not go up because of the installation of a smart meter. Well, that's absolutely not true. Within 2 years of installing the smart meters, we have had our electric. They now decided that they're going to charge us, instead of $19.80 for the privilege of having their meter on our property, that they would increase it for everybody to $24. So $4.20 increase. That's about 20% increase. So that's for having the smart meter.
You know something? I'm going to mention here, I've got a friend who lives in Geraldton in Western Australia. And he's into common law. He's a retired cop, but actually he quit because he could see all the corruption and garbage that was beginning to go on, and that he couldn't do anything more from the inside. But he was actually a detective. Okay, he's called the Aussie Bulldog, and he's told this story in a podcast of his, so I'm going to retell it. His name is Wayne Glew. That's WAYNEGLEW. And if you search for him on YouTube, you'll find him. He's got a lot of useful information. But you know what? He had the council put a water meter on his place, okay? And what happened, he decided he was going off the grid, and he was not having the fluoridated poison supply anymore delivered to his house. And so he sent several letters to the council telling them to come and remove the water meter from his property. And his final letter went something like this. On such and such a day, I intend to remove the water meter yourself. Come and pick it up from outside my front boundary. Okay, on such and such a day. And what he did was he hooked a chain around the water meter and attached the other end of the chain to his four-wheel drive, one-ton farm vehicle. And he put it into four-wheel drive, and he pressed the accelerator. And he pulled the water meter out, and of course the pipe gushed everywhere. The neighbours noticed. They called the council. They called the police. Yada yada. The police showed up. The council showed up. The water meter was on the front curb. The fountain was gushing out of the mains. And they said, what did you do here? We're going to do you for criminal damage of our water meter. And he said, well, I told you 3 times, come and get your water meter. I don't want it anymore. By the way, I'm not advocating that anybody repeat his actions. I'm just telling a story, okay? a story that he's already told on the internet. But this is an example of what one man did because he was fed up with paying money into the cartel. And the Geraldton cartel, I can tell you from personal experience, is a particularly nasty one. Even before I was fighting with them, my dad was fighting with them. And he was, fighting with them for about 20 years. And it eventually got so bad that he sold his farm and moved to Rotorua in New Zealand. And that was after, several generations. He was the third generation in his family of people who lived in Geraldton. And he had to up sticks and move back in the 1970s because it was getting really bad back then. But like I say, that's an example. They never did end up pressing charges against Wayne Glue. Actually, I think they did, but they weren't successful. If you fight them, okay, they have no common law right to enforce a contract on